Welcome to East Coast DNA. I've been saying a lot that we have a returning guest, but in this case, we have brand new guests. So, welcome to East Coast DNA, the Orchids. So, it's Rhys and Alexis. So, nice to meet you both. I did have a chance to catch your performance at the Marigold as part of the Subvert series. So I definitely had heard a lot about you leading up to that performance over the last year or two. Definitely have noticed you popping up in the all ages circuit. So that's one thing I kind of wanted to start with. And then maybe from there, we'll get into a little bit of the band and where the two of you kind of get your musical influence.
Yeah.
But the first thing I wanted to focus on was the fact that I did hear about you more so through like a word of mouth type marketing because it wasn't so much press releases and that type of targeted marketing. I was hearing that you were playing with bands that I either follow myself or had featured on other episodes of East Coast DNA. And I did note that even though I see you pop up in the Halifax area, that you're like halfway between me and Halifax. So you're from, I'm not sure exactly, you're in that like Colchester area. So like, are you right in
Yeah.
Truro?
Yeah, we're from Truro. Reese lives like right in Truro. I live like more in Onslow Mountain, but
Okay,
we just
perfect.
say we're based in Truro.
Yeah,
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 Turo's way easier to say than
yeah.
spread out.
As somebody that does the whole East Coast region, it may seem a little odd, more so to people that are not from around here. But I do, where I like local, I do like when bands represent where they're actually from instead of saying, like, you could easily say that you're Halifax based.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Like,
I
and
mean,
nobody would fault you for that either, but I do
no,
like that you're Truro based.
yeah, I mean, we're definitely like in the scene, but we're
Hmm.
also kind of out. We're sort of like outsiders looking in, if it makes sense, because we're
Sure.
we're pretty much there exclusively.
Yeah, a lot of people just assume we're from Halifax. And we're like,
Yeah.
no.
Everyone always assumes everyone's from where they're from if it's something
Yeah.
that's like
Yeah,
independent. So I kind of get that vibe. Now, you're both quite young as well. We've had the fortune of a lot of young artists popping up over the last couple of years in the East Coast. So I've had a few people in your age range that have been featured. But I'm curious because of your age, and I have some suspicions on where it comes from, but musical influence. Now, if I were to go to like the press release for your new album and pull a few things out, that's really easy for me. But also when I'm listening to the music too, rather than getting like a Queens of the Stone Age that people would be familiar with, I get it more of a kind of a Kyuss vibe, which may be very nuanced to some people that maybe are not into it.
Yeah.
But I also see things like the 90s music influence. When I featured a lot of the independent bands coming out of Prince Edward Island, it's really easy to think back of like Thrush Hermit and Sloan.
sure.
But I'll also hear about like newer bands and I'm like, you sound a little bit like the Inbreds or you sound a little bit like Super Friends. And I see that you have Eric's Trip listed as an influence and actually cover one of their songs as well.
Yeah.
Where does that influence come from? Is that like parents handing stuff down, or do you have like a cool older sibling or something?
Well,
Where are you getting that from?
my dad is super into Eric's Trip, Brick White, Elevator, like all that stuff. And he got me into all that stuff because we have like pretty much almost everything on vinyl from Blue Fog and like all of that. So I got into Elevator to Hell and Elevator Through first. And
Hmm.
then from that, obviously, I discovered Eric's Trip and then all like the other things. And I really liked it. They have such a unique sound. And the fact that they're local and they
Hmm.
accomplish like so much, like it's just really inspiring. And they're incredible musicians.
Yeah. They're just it's really nice to see like do people doing stuff on that scale from, our way.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. And like for people that aren't familiar, I mean, we could do several episodes if we dug into that, but
Yeah.
they named themselves after us, like Eric's Trip was after a Sonic Youth song.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And because of the era where it was like the 90s scene down there, people were looking for a new area and they were looking in our area for the next up and coming bands. They actually ended up at one point getting the attention of Sub Pop and opening for Sonic Youth,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is
I remember,
it's just
yeah,
mind blowing.
it's pretty great. I think the poster is up somewhere. I think Rick has it on his thing, but I remember someone said they got like 20 minutes playing
Yeah,
Sonic Youth. I mean, it's still pretty
it's
great,
amazing.
but
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, that was a big deal, really. And I think it still influences everything that happens with like when Sloan was getting big and
hmm
Halifax blew up and you had the Monoxides and you know all those
yes,
all those great bands from around it. I think that still really influences and affects what people are doing now. But I mean, I don't know if people are as up on the Super Friends or Thrush Hermit or Hardship Post, but um, yeah, I mean, you can't deny it because it really changed everything here and just
yeah,
turned the eyes over here to make it seem like you didn't have to leave your hometown to go to Toronto to get noticed.
exactly. Yeah, that's been a key thing for me as far as motivation for these episodes too, is just to kind of let people like yourselves kind of see that there's people out there doing things, so you don't necessarily have to leave your hometown. I mean, you can spread your wings, but yeah, you don't necessarily have to. So it's always nice and encouraging to see that people are kind of following suit and taking advantage of that. But yourself then, Rhys, where does that kind of come in for you? Is like, are you getting another source for music that way, or is it through the same channels? Like, are you
It's
digging into
them.
that same collection?
Yeah, it's really them for most of the East Coast stuff. I mean, in my house, it was like the radio station. You might
Yeah,
hear Money City Maniacs or something every once in a blue moon, but I didn't understand what it was. But yeah, her and her dad really got me into all like the pretty most of what I listen to now is all from them being like, you
yeah.
would like this, and I'd be like, yeah, I kind of do like this. And so, yeah.
Have you ever listened to Quicksand or Helmet? You
No,
should.
but I've heard a lot about them.
So Paige Hamilton, check him out. Just because your vocals and just your style of playing too, I think Paige Hamilton you'll probably dig. So
Yeah.
that's something for you to do. It's probably going to be a whole afternoon of you digging into stuff and going, oh, actually, I kind of like this. So anyway, the inspiration's already there somehow. I don't know where that all comes from, but it is really cool to hear it. But it's also unique that you're a two piece. I mean, people immediately are going to gravitate towards things like White Stripes or Royal Blood or bands that people know that are duos. And I mentioned the Inbreds already in this conversation too, which was also a duo. But what keeps you together as a duo and where you have been performing for a little while live? How is it that you've never really gravitated towards having like a bass player or an extra person on stage in some capacity? Because you definitely have, as you pointed out, you've involved yourself in the Halifax scene. So I know that you do have a good network of other bands and definitely fans that have the talent to jump in on something. But I mean, no knock on the sound. I love it. You don't necessarily need something in there. But is there something that's kind of kept you as a foundation as a duo in the duration of this as a project?
Yeah, well, we started out as a White Stripes cover band, just like playing White Stripes songs in Reese's basement.
Yeah,
And then from there we started writing our own music, and we were like we're doing pretty well just on our own. And it's like I don't like we never felt the need to like include anyone else. And it's
Hmm.
like, yeah, we know lots of other great like guitar players and bass players, but it's like I feel like our dynamic of just the two of us would be so much stronger than just adding a third person just because. And especially now, like we're a lot louder than we used to be.
Hmm.
So it's like, why would we add another person when we could just like get like a big amp or two big amps someday?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like that attitude.
yeah. I mean, and it's also like we sound fairly full anyway, and
Hmm.
it's sort of, you know, and it's less work to have someone else. And people
Yeah,
have asked before, and we've politely declined.
Yeah.
But it's just, you know, you don't need too much. You don't need to
yeah.
overcomplicate things.
No, you're definitely you're threading that line very well of keeping it loud, but it's full instead of just being loud. So you definitely found a perfect balance. How did you decide, like, when you started this as a project, like, were you already friends and then picked up instruments, or did you play instruments and then you kind of organically ended up finding each other living in the same community because you're both performing, or like how did that kind of evolve?
We were both in high school, like symphonic band together, like both in the percussion section.
Hmm.
And we didn't talk to each other for a long time because we're both really introverted. But eventually, like we started talking to each other about like music stuff once in a while, and then we joined like the high school rock band together that he played guitar in and I played drums in. And then we played like another show that was with like us and Chad Peck, just like for the school or whatever. And we were like, we have really similar like music tastes. And it's like I had friends who liked rock music, but like we were just like on a different level. Like he just like like he understood like what I liked and I understood what he liked, and it just like we meshed well together as friends. So and then that summer we were like, well, let's just like get together and start playing a bunch of White Stripes songs. And then of course that went to record or playing our own stuff. So that's kind of how we met. It's
Cool.
just through school.
And now I had talked to you just briefly when I saw you perform. I talked to you a little bit when you were not performing about kind of driving back and forth from the city and still staying in your hometown area. But also, despite the fact that I'm mentioning you being young and playing all ages shows, you must be at that age now where you're probably looking at performing places that aren't necessarily all ages. So, how are you finding the balance of finding gigs? Like, are you at that point right now where you're trying to find a new audience, or is that all ages audience just evolving as kids are becoming teenagers and teenagers are growing into young adults?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really try too much to get gigs. People just are like, "You want to play here?" And we're like, "Sure."
Yeah.
And you know, it's there's pros and cons to both. It is nice to go other places and have some variety. And usually we leave a fairly good impression on people. But it is I wouldn't say one's better than the other, but there's, you know, like I said, pros and cons to both. So,
Yeah, we've been playing Gus's for like a while, and that's like not all ages. And
Mhm.
it's still fun. Like we play Gus's, which is not all ages. We play Radstorm, that is Subvert, is all ages. And, like we play like zeros. Like
Yes.
it's kind of just like it's kind of like a pretty even balance of not all ages and all ages. And it's not like we're not even being strategic about it. It's
Yeah.
just like if someone reaches out to us and is like, "Do you want to play here?" And it's like if we're not doing anything else that day, it's like sure, like why not? So yeah.
It it's funny. It's I tend to compare. I don't know if people like this or not. I have a growing fan base, so that some people must like it. I compare a lot of what the musicians are going through with what I do on my end here and the media
mm,
side. So I kind of would compare that to my balance of established acts versus like independent. I have a lot of people that come to me with things, and then there's a lot of bands that I'm kind of aware of from being out in the scene myself. So where I was already aware of you and I'd seen you perform and I was interested in having you on, I was also pleasantly surprised to see that you have a very good support structure already. So one thing I'd mention at first is that when I saw you at the Marigold, I noticed that you had a pretty solid merchandise game. So you have somebody that's helping you behind the scenes, keeping all that packaged together and organized.
Yeah, that's kind of my dad that does all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, me and my mom, we make like the pins and stickers of like our cry cut machine, and then like my dad kind of like sorts out like the printing with like our printer in Halifax. And we actually just sold the rest of our shirts last night, so
Oh wow.
we're gonna have a new order in with a new design on it. But
Amazing.
yeah, he helps out with a lot of stuff, and he's usually the guy behind the merch table if we're out doing something else, setting up or whatever.
He definitely has a familiar face, and where I had talked to him a little bit behind the scenes, because since I had seen you, I also ended up getting a press release for your album, which we'll get to in a moment. But I noticed the whole Here to Destroy that he had his own podcast in there as well at one point. But I'm curious if you don't mind, I know it's your dad as well, but if you don't mind just taking a moment to talk about it's Ryan Grant.
Yeah.
So what's the background there? Is he from a band as well, or is he a
No, he actually doesn't play any instruments.
He's like
He,
me. That's what I was wondering. Okay.
yeah, like he doesn't play any instruments, but he's always been super into music. Like knows like everything about everything, knows like everyone. And he just grew up like listening to music all the time. And then he had like a website called Triple Bypass,
Mhm.
which he had that with his friends, and they'd go around like filming different like hip hop artists. Like they went like everywhere. They went from like just like here locally to like Toronto and like New York, California, and he would just like film and interview people. And he was just always been super into music, super into local scene, all of the local bands. He's seen like so many like bands like grow from like the Maritimes and like go on to do such great things. And
Mhm.
he knows a lot. He's a lot of experience.
Yeah, well, it showed because, like I said, I could see similarities in what I do here as well. So, shout out to Ryan. Thank you for all
Yeah.
that too. So, I want to talk about the album itself. So, it's out now. So, anybody
Finally.
that's watching this may have heard it. But yeah, it sounds like it was a long process. So, maybe you can just, in your own words, tell me about the origins and kind of the process of getting it from concept to being publicly available.
Yeah, I think it all started because we had like pretty much the songs written. We were like, we should record these. And so one day I went up to Chad Peck because he teaches at the school, and I was
Okay.
in his guitar class or something. And I asked him where he does all his recordings, and he was like, "Oh, it's at the drum room. It's in Three Fathom Harbor. I can probably get you guys in, get you a date, blah blah blah, whatever." And so then we did go, and I think we did 4 sessions of recording.
Yeah, like at first, like we recorded all of our songs in like 1.5 days, but then we were like listening to some stuff and we were like, oh, I think we should go back and redo some stuff. And one song we cut and replaced it with Daredevil. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think we did probably like 4 recording sessions in total.
Yeah, but it was fun, but it and that was in I think we started in like mid-July probably
Mm,
or
maybe.
August,
I
early
think we
August,
started in August, and then I think we might have like finished in like the fall,
or
maybe
we our
November.
last one was I think November 11th.
Yeah, yeah, because I think we were redoing some vocals
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
that day. Yeah, and then we started mixing in December, and then we've I think we finished that in December, but it like the mixing process was definitely like a longer process than I think we were both expecting it to be. Because like when you're just listening to like the same songs, the same recordings over and over and over, you just notice so many like minor things where it's like, oh my God, like how did we not catch that when we were in the studio? So it's like poor Chad was like, I was like, oh, can you fix this? Can you fix this? And like like he could. He's just amazing. He's just so good what he does.
He's the Pro Tools wizard,
Yes.
as some may know it.
Yes. So once we got things mixed, then we sent off the mastering. And there even after we sent it to mastering, I like was listening to the mixes again and I was like, oh damn it, I think I gotta ask Chad if he can fix this other thing too. So that happened a couple times. But then eventually we sent it over to mastering and like after a couple like back and forth and like a couple different changes, we were like, okay, I think this is good. I think this is as good as we're gonna get. And I think this is pretty solid for our first time recording an album. Like none of us recorded anything before. Like I didn't even know what mixing or mastering was before we started this.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got mastered by Scott Miller at Ancient Temple Recordings, and then Chad Peck produced and mixed it, and it was engineered and recorded by Jeff McDonald at the drum room. So we had a lot of help from a lot of great people, and I think it turned out really good.
How do you find now that you're on the other end of it, besides the fact that it's out there available for streaming? Did you like that process where you're going back and forth? Did that influence how you perform those songs now? Like, do you find yourself aware, or has the live performance been tweaked a little bit to accommodate what you know sonically you've changed in the songs?
I think we've definitely sat with them way more and really thought much harder about what we were doing
Hmm.
and how we could get the best thing out without, making it too like I don't want to say like finely chopped, but just getting something that's like really solid that you're proud of and doing a lot more thinking. And I think
Hmm.
the entire we've learned a lot just within the last 6 months of doing this. Like it's just a giant learning curve. And now I think we know when we go back, like we'll know what to expect a bit more instead of kind of going in blindsided.
So I'm wondering too, music videos, like your live performance is very, I'd like to say raw, but you have a nice balance between the two of you. Like it's got your drums are very tight as well, like with the raw guitar over top of it. So like it does have a real cool balance both like sonically and visually. So obviously, live performance is something that would come across very easily as a good music video. But have you considered doing music videos for any of the songs that you've recorded now?
I think we definitely will someday. I'm not sure how soon that would be because recording a music video, like that's a lot of money and a lot of like time and planning. So
Hmm.
like I would love to do that someday. And there's definitely certain songs where I have like visions of what the music video could be. But I think we gotta save our money up for like vinyl and CDs and new merch right now. So I wouldn't expect a music video anytime soon. But I think someday I think we'll get around to it.
Now, vinyl is exciting. So, I mean, obviously, I'm a good demographic for you to be targeting at anyway, but also the type of influences that we've listed off too. It would just kind of lend itself to this is a perfect release to put on vinyl. So, I'm assuming that that's just a plan for down the road at some point. It's nothing that is presently available.
No, we're definitely doing CDs
Yeah.
first, and I think you can expect those to come in pretty soon. And I think, and after that, we'll do vinyl. It'll definitely be this year, like for sure. But yeah,
Yeah, maybe further down the road. Uh, you know, as much as we want to get them out, we just kind of can't right now.
Oh
And
yeah, no,
CDs are
pacing
still,
yourself.
yeah, CDs are still, it's still something. So
Yeah.
yeah, but soon.
And where should people spot it? Spotify? Like, is that the preferred streaming, or
I
do you
mean,
have?
I think we're pretty much, I think we're on all of them.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think yeah, Spotify, iTunes, Bandcamp, uh, I don't know. I don't know if
YouTube
all.
music,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know if all is the right word, but
the
yeah.
That's what
majority.
I've been saying to anybody when we get into this part of the conversation too. If anybody's watching this and you know of a platform that it's not on, just put it in the comments, and then we'll get that fixed. We'll make sure that
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
there. We'll make them a liar.
Hmm.
So, what are your plans for the rest of 2025? Like, you have an album out, so you want to promote it. So, I do know, as we had talked about, that your strategy for live performances isn't necessarily textbook marketing. You've just had the fortune of having some really good opportunities just through, like I said, you have good word of mouth out there. You've making a good impression on people so far. So are you just kind of following the same pattern as the year progresses, or do you have some type of tour dates planned to support the album?
We're just kind of going with the flow. I don't know. It would be kind of hard to plan like a full on tour right now, especially like if it was Montreal and Toronto, because it's like we're both in school.
Yeah.
So kind of make it sort of difficult, but we're kind of just going with the flow right now. And like, I think if there was a band that reached out and wanted and asked us to tag along on their tour, I think
Mhm.
that is definitely reasonable. And I think we could do that. I think I would prefer to do something like that right now before we planned our own, just to get some experience before we ever do one. Like that's just
Absolutely.
ourselves. But yeah, we're just kind of going with the flow, playing some more shows, writing some more songs. Yeah.
Yeah.
And coming up in April, this episode is in April if anybody's watching it, despite the fact that it's March when we're recording. But coming up very soon
Yeah.
is the Food for the Ears
Oh yeah.
charity event at Lighthouse Art Center this year.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you've performed at that in previous years because it's from your area.
Yeah, I think, well, I played the very first one with one of my older bands, and then the second one that was at the Glengarry last year, we played.
Okay,
So we played it
Se
before.
second time we've been.
This will be our second time playing it as the Orchids.
cool. So I'm definitely going to be there because I'm one of the co-hosts for the event as well. So hopefully we have some type of content to show people afterwards. But for anyone that is unaware of the event, I have another interview where we get into a little bit more in depth. So you can find that if you look for Food for the Ears. And it's foodforthears.com, I believe, as well. So people could just go out there and check out the website. So it'd be good if people go out there and support the event and you get to see these guys as well as a super bonus. But I also wanted to check with the two of you. I know that there was a couple singles that were specifically featured pre-release from the album. But now that we're at the other end and the full album's out, what would you like to play off with to give people a taste of what you have to offer?
Ooh, maybe. Oh man. Like headache or something.
I think Daredevil,
That was probably.
Headache, and The Rose is my personal favorite.
Yes.
Oh, pretty nice. Yeah, those are. Anyway,
I would say those are a good big three.
Amazing. So anyone that's stuck along, I definitely recommend that you stick along a little bit longer and listen to this track. Go out there and stream the full album. It really is a solid package all the way through from start to finish. So I wish you both the best, and please keep in contact in the future. I expect that as your schooling goes on and you start to have more free time to do your own things, that the band is going to have a little bit of a priority. I don't think it's anything that's disappearing anywhere in the near future. So definitely keep us posted on this end, and we'll be watching from the sidelines to see what's happening with you as well.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you in April.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Daddy's got a rabbit toothache, gives him a crooked smile.